Greetings and various assorted salutations. Welcome to what amounts to probably the opening lecture of U.S. government. Just as so you're aware with these lectures, the idea of these lectures is to go in and kind of explain key ideas or concepts and give the students some quote-unquote notes to serve as a foundation for the course and the topics we expand upon within the course. Now, since this is an opening lecture, I'll provide some guidance, tips, and tricks on how to kind of effectively use these, or at least how I've found it works for me. So, this is the start. We're going into what is government, why does it matter? Well, you need to start at the beginning, and this is as good as it gets. Laconically, or shortly put, government exists to maintain order, provide services, ensure security, and make public policy. It uses power to enforce rules, and politics determines who gets what, when, and how. Let's carry in. Now, of course, this is this is U.S. government, so this is about American government. So we'll mainly focus on American United States examples for this. Because, well, yeah, that's what the course description has. Anyways, learning objectives. Now, learning objectives are kind of providing an outline or table of contents of some of the big ideas that I'm going to be talking around and about. Some people use these in their outline as the major headings, or if you're doing like a spiderweb style of notes, they go in the center. If you're taking notes, which I recommend anyways, what I recommend doing is trying out several different styles of note-taking, find what works, and then do that. Notes are kind of your own thing, and they're only as good as you use them. And different people have different demands for their notes. Anyways, 4 concepts that we're looking at. We need to be able to define and identify these key terms: government, politics, power, and sovereignty. Number 2, we need to identify and explain the major functions of government. 3 is getting into philosophy. We're going to look at the philosophers Hobbes and Locke and how they viewed the purpose of government so that we can better understand, well, why governments kind of exist and some of their ways of operating. We're also going to look at some real-life examples of government. We may not cover all these in the lecture itself, but we might go into more detail in class as we go about. Now, of course, there are going to be some key terms. Key terms are concepts or ideas that are important. Now, these are specific to the lecture. There might be a terms list for the unit that we're studying, and it may vary or it may be larger. So just be aware that sometimes the terms I define in my lectures, that's to help you better understand the lecture. And some of them carry over into our terms list, or some of them don't. That's the nature of things. So let's get into it. Government. This is a big one. Government is the institution through which a society makes and enforces public policies. I'm going to be honest with you, that definition is a bit too vague to be very useful. We'll get into it. Politics. There's a difference. Government and politics are intertwined, but they're different. Politics is the process by which decisions are made for a group. Who gets power? Why do they have power? And that's the basics there. Government is more of the institution. Politics is more of the steering wheel, if you want to think of it as like a car. The government is the car, and who gets to be the driver is the politics of it. And this connects to the other key term, power. And that is the ability to influence or control the behavior of people, often through laws or authority. Many things in politics and government center around controlling and using power to accomplish agendas and complete objectives. Things of that nature. Another term that comes up is society. Society is another word for a group of people living together more or less in an ordered community. You know, we live in a society. The people you live around make up a society. How you interact with people within this group, that's kind of what society is. The last one that comes up, and we'll definitely go into more on this later on, is sovereignty. Now, sovereignty refers to the supreme authority within a territory, the ability to govern without outside interference. What this amounts to is how governments of nations separate each other out. The sovereignty of the United States means the application of the U.S. laws and how the U.S. conducts itself within the borders of the United States of America. Likewise, if we go to another country, we are in their sovereign lands where their laws apply. It's kind of sort of when in Rome, do as Romans do. That kind of thing. Now that leads us to the next question. What is government? We're going to address this question, and it seems a bit obvious, a bit generic, but this is the introductory lecture to government, so what did you expect? Government is the basic level of creating a sense of order within a society. And let's expand that definition of society. A lot of this lecture is expanding definitions. It's a rabbit hole. Society is a byproduct of people coming together. Throughout human history, humans have found success by banding together to meet each other's needs and wants, to survive. If we're thinking of prehistoric human beings that hunted and gathered, that means that they found that, oh, well, we bring together these guys. We bring together these people together. Some might be good at identifying which berries are safe to eat. Some might be good at hunting. Some might be good at raising the children. Some might be good at consulting the elderly with experiences. And by working together, these prehistoric tribes managed to, well, not die. They were able to gather resources and survive. When we get to city building, larger amounts of people had to coordinate agriculture, trade, organizing of resources. And so that's what that amounts to. Now, societies do require us to make compromises. I cannot do anything I want, as some actions might limit or restrict the group's ability as a whole to survive. And so society, or more adeptly, working together, forces individuals to coordinate together to find some degree of success. Now, this leads us to where governments fit in. Government is often the way to organize a society. It's one of the ways that society organizes itself. Often how government fits in is it establishes rules. And these rules in place can help guide decision-making, coordinate action, or clarify what are the limits of a person's action or a group's actions. And this promotes stability. Stability is what allows people to go about living their lives. In a society that is deemed functioning, usually what that amounts to is people are able to go about their day-to-day business. They're not paranoid about surviving to the next sunrise. They're not struggling to survive necessarily on a day-to-day basis. But within a kind of a successful, stable society, you see that most of its population is able to kind of just go about their daily lives. They may not even be the individual pieces may not be as concerned with the big picture. I think the best way to understand kind of how this analogy works is to look at some paintings from a series. This is a famous set of paintings called The Course of... what is it? The Consummation of the Course of the Empire. And so let's kind of look at that. We'll look at these two paintings. Now, the first painting shows kind of an idealized, beautiful, busy city. You can see that people are working, they're partying, they're going about their business, they're trading, whatever. These people are doing these things, they're interacting with each other because there's a sense of trust. trade or the exchange of goods is possible because people believe, oh, I need this good, you have that good, I have this good that you want, we can exchange them. You have people going about their business, they're not worried about as many things other than, what do I need to do to operate and function? What are my things? If you want a more modern analogy, you're thinking about, okay, what do I need to do to pay the bills and get the things I want? What do I have to do during my shift? Things like that. You're not as concerned about the bigger picture. You feel relatively secure from threats. And you can do things like celebrate because you're in good company and you can let your guard down. Now, painting 2 shows you kind of a society in collapse. This one's called, well, destruction. Course of an empire, destruction. This is what shows when a society or a government fails its people. A government often sees itself as its job as protecting its citizens, maintaining order, and making decisions that prevent disaster. Defending against threats, whether they're like fires or invasion or ensuring laws are followed. And here in this painting, you can see those things are not happening. There is greed, there is destruction. People do not feel secure in what is going on. And that worries them. And they're more concerned about, what can I do to not get looted? What can I do to protect what little I have? Or, I don't have enough, I need to take from another. And so that's kind of what destruction shows you. So, what a society ideally looks like, well, from a painting in the 1830s, compared to what happens when it all falls apart. So now we need to look at, what does a government do per se? Now, governments can do a lot of different things, and there's a lot of different setups for governments. We will spend some time on comparative government, despite the fact that this is a U.S. history thing, or a U.S. government class. But for now, let's stick to kind of the more basic ideas. Core functions of pretty much any government is they look to maintain order, security, set public policy, and provide services. Let's break it down. Order. Maintain peace and stability. We're talking police, laws, court systems. Using these things, it can guide people's actions and address problems that arise between people. When people come into conflict with each other, laws and order can promote a peaceful or negotiated way of dealing with the division between groups or people, individuals. Security. The world is a dangerous place. There are outsiders who might seek to threaten those within another area, and there are some people within an area that are not interested in playing by the rules, or they seek to take advantage of others in ways that, well, run against the first bullet point of maintaining order and stability. And so this means that governments, one of the major functions that governments will often feature is a way to defend against external and internal threats. We see this throughout history. One of the most common things any government provides throughout all human history is this sense of security. This is done through police and military. Police to deal with those who threaten order, and military to deal with those who potentially threaten the society as a whole from the outside. Number 3, public policy. Public policy kind of sets up running the other two. Public policy is determining how a society is run. A government often plays a role in it. This could be like deciding to print a currency and having people use that currency within a society. That could be creating rules on how interactions work, like why you can't just commit murder, or workplace safety, things like that. Public policy can go all over and cover a lot of different things. But the basic idea is organize a portion of how the society functions. And then the fourth one is services. These are often goods and services and things that an individual might not be able to provide as easily for themselves. I've got 3 good examples up there: schools, roads, and sanitation. Schools, for a good example, is, well, in a society we might want people to learn about certain concepts and ideas and values. And so schools are often run by the government to impart those ideas and values and common things we'd like to be common knowledge. Roads are often maintained by governments because they will connect communities, they will provide, they will allow for people to better function as individuals, but they may not necessarily be able to do it themselves. Another thing is sanitation, garbage removal service. This is not always something provided by the government, but the government might try and organize how this is done. Because trash, well, in ancient history, trash was often thrown out not too far from where people lived, which was not convenient for sanitation, which could provide an issue with maintaining order and stability if people are getting sick all the time. Things like that. Postal services are also another one. The ability to communicate with people throughout a society in an organized way is often an important one as well. Governments will expand into other things, and how much any government handles these 4 things may vary quite a bit, but these are the 4 core things that governments address in some way, shape, or form, or fail to address. This leads us to kind of the philosophical question of, why do we have governments? Why do we create these things? Well, the easy answer to this question is people seek order and stability. Seems kind of obvious. People and society as a whole often lean on government because it offers a chance at greater stability. The idea behind this is, quite frankly, people don't want to run the survive day by day thing. They have greater ambitions than trying to just struggle to the next sunrise. Perhaps post-apocalyptic society films and video games best capture this. When you look at those films where society has collapsed, people spend a great deal of energy gathering resources or taking things from others or guarding what they have. There's little time for art or entertainment or even relaxation. And most of us have needs and wants, or at least wants, that go beyond survival. But we need to get a bit more philosophical than pop culture references and the dank memes. So let's turn to the Enlightenment, where a lot of America's political history kind of draws inspiration from. So let's take a look. There's 2 philosophers we're going to look at in particular, Thomas Hobbes and Locke. Let's start with Hobbes. Thomas Hobbes is an English philosopher from the early 1600s, and he believed that people are selfish, and government's job is to rein in that selfishness and get them working together. Otherwise, as Hobbes put it, people without government are nasty, brutish, and live short lives. And therefore, government imposes order and uses power to contain the evil people. There's a picture, a painting of Hobbes. And he wrote a book called The Leviathan. The Leviathan is a sea monster referred to in the Bible. And the idea is the Leviathan is this giant, horrible monster and that no one can defeat it. And Hobbes likened the government to this great monster. This monster overwhelms the evil, selfish desires of the individual in society. And so that's the idea of our good friend Hobbes. But the government uses its power and authority to contain the people. Let's actually go back to that one real quick. But Hobbes sees people as problematic. They're selfish. They only care about themselves. They'll step on others and deny the others the ability to survive. And in a society, we need to work together. How do you get people to work together? You give them a powerful force over them so that they can't destroy each other. So that's one way of viewing human nature. People are selfish. I'll probably describe it funnier in class, but probably shouldn't be quoted. Anyways, there's another view, though, John Locke. And that's what makes philosophy fun, is Hobbes has a completely coherent way of explaining how governments can and should work. However, somebody else can come along, like our good friend Locke here, and say, nah, let's look at the world this way. Now, John Locke is an English philosopher of the mid to late 1600s, and he argued in his works that people are more reasonable. People should have certain rights and privileges, and a government exists to protect these things, these rights and privileges. Now, Locke refers to these rights as something called natural rights. And the idea of natural rights, the why they're called natural, is it's believed to be innate. You have these rights because you are a person. If you deny somebody else these rights, you are denying them of their humanity, which is evil. And Locke therefore sees the government as a force to protect natural rights. Here's a picture of our good friend Locke. Locke is very inspirational on American political philosophy and America's foundations, because while Locke listed his natural rights as life, liberty, and property, the United States is going to list these in our foundational documents as the rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And therefore, a lot of early governments will pick up on this later on in the course, but not too far down the road. But the U.S. government kind of sees itself as defending these things, and a government should defend these things, is what many of the founding fathers felt. Now, what is life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, or property? Well, that's up for debate. Basically oversimplified, Locke versus Hobbes. Hobbes sees the government as a force holding evil individuals back, and Locke sees government as a way of guaranteeing humanity's ability to stay good. If you protect these rights, people will do good. Whereas Hobbes would say, people are scumbags, we need to make them work together by force. Now, government, in the grand scheme of things. You're probably a high school student, or whoever watches these videos, so probably bots and cats at this point. But if you're in my class, it'd be presumably high school students. In the grand scheme of things, you probably don't care about all the things governments do. You probably don't care about the government thingy a whole lot. You probably don't think about the government necessarily a whole lot. You may have a more Lockean or Hobbesian view on how the world works. But the thing to keep in mind is the government impacts your life no matter what. If you break the law and you're arrested, you get to interact with the government that way. If you do your job, you pay your taxes. Or if you don't pay your taxes, the government's going to, get involved. But think of all those times you've complained about taxes, politicians, laws, school, safety. All those things are connected to government. And so whether you like it or not, you're going to interact with government. The government's going to respond to your emergencies. Things like that. They manage national parks. They set laws for wages. They set workplace safety. They set food safety laws. Things like that. They put in traffic lights. Whether you like it or not, the government plays a huge role in what you do. Now, I, as a government teacher, am hoping to encourage you to take a more active role in this. Whether that active role is voting, running for office, complaining more effectively in public hearings, or working for the government, whatever it amounts to, it's on you. Ultimately, the purpose of this class is to teach you what government is, how it works, how to participate if you want, and how to pursue your own agendas within this particular nation, the United States, in a legal manner. But that's the basic idea. This is a class that introduces you to government, because where you go from high school, that's on you. You take the skills, interests, and ambitions of your life, and you walk out of the building that you've spent a few years in. The rest of your life is of your own choosing and your own pursuits. But I hope to give you a little bit of knowledge so that you can better go after things. Anyways, that's enough for now. Until later.